And welcome back to Sports on Tap. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio, 2706 Boston Road. And Ed, I have said already it borders 4 cities.
What cities are those?
North Royalton, Hinckley, Brunswick, Strongsville.
Yeah, there we go.
And, no matter if it's cold, it's warm, whatever it is, the ice cream and the chocolate milkshakes, everything here is... Yes, the first Thursday of every month. We're up here talking sports, usually high school sports. But, hey, if you want to talk other sports, we can do that as well. But
we have that
ability. We're just that talented.
It's in our arsenal.
Rob Traub and Josh Effie, Dick Sean Duffy.
Far.
Yeah. we have been known to spin a rug on some professional and college
Spin
topics.
a rug.
Is that
interesting?
Did I use that wrong? Probably
I
used
don't
that
know.
wrong.
You know what?
You know what I'm thinking? Spin a yarn. That's what I'm thinking. It's called.
I've never heard that either. But, hey, do you know what we're going to do in this segment? We're going to talk about the Buckeye Bucks.
He's not cultured. That's what it is.
Buckeye.
That's what it is.
Athletic Conference. And, of course, Buckeye, we know, is in the playoffs. And we'll talk about our game of the week. But let's go over to Sean Duffy, who is going to give us a recap for the Buckeye Bucks here in Week 10.
Thank you, Rob. Well, the Buckeye Bucks jumped out to an early lead and quickly took care of business at Brookside, winning the GOTW Athletic Conference Stars Division. Buckeye senior Richard Van Boxel ran the opening kick all the way down to the Brookside 16-yard line. 2 plays later, quarterback and all-around great Bucks with 110 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns and 11 carries. Anthony Watkins added 7 here outside of pretty much one bad game in the opening week, was dominant, holding Brookside to 46. Again, just 46 total yards of offense.
Say so.
Yeah. Buckeye finishes 9-1 and 5-0 in the conference, as I mentioned before. And with that win, they clinched the playoff game against number 5 New Philadelphia on Saturday. So, guys, Buckeye took care of business. And now they get to play New Philadelphia. And if you're any team right now on the offensive side of the ball, you don't want to see this.
I can't remember if it was Week 7. I think it was.
It was Week 6, I think.
Yeah, 6 or 7 against Black River. And, that defense, like you said, a Buckeye, Van Boxel is a really impressive player. Not only does he score touchdowns on the offensive side, but he goes on defense and plays a strong they went through injuries, did Buckeye, and other guys stepped up. Coach Pinzoni figured out an offense that really worked well for each player. Justin Kennedy is having a great year, too. He's a tall, kind of like we saw with Medina's running back. He's another tall guy that looks like a wide receiver, but he's running the ball and just quick, very decisive at where he's going. And, Buckeye's a very impressive team. They're dangerous overtime where both teams just scored a lot. But they'll have another tough contest with New Philadelphia, but Buckeye, again, had some stride.
Right on.
So there's Buckeye getting into the playoffs. Now let's move to our game of the week this last week.
It's upside.
That's why there was a little bit of silence. I thought Sean was going to jump back in and said he was stretching his arms.
Stretching out because when I go through this recap, when I get through this, you're going to understand why I need to stretch for this. So may I?
All right, it was Solon, an impressive game for the Greater Cleveland Conference.
Thank you very much, Rob. And again, as Rob mentioned, this is to take on the Battling Bees. The winner would most likely be crowned the champion of the Greater Cleveland Conference in some way or the other. If Solon won, they would be the sole champion. If Medina won, there was a lot on the line, and I think Josh and Rob can both attest to. At times, it got a little cost some teams some plays and some
I
points.
can concur.
So, very, very interesting game. So we'll start off early when a bad snap rolled out of the back of the Medina end zone. Solon capitalized and jumped out to a very early lead with 10:21 remaining in the opening quarter. After forcing a Solon punt, Medina was driving into Comet territory, but a fumble and a recovery by Solon gave the Comets a short field. Solon drove 52 yards and scored in a 1-yard TD run by junior running back Thomas Wilkes. Comets led 9-0 at the end of the first quarter. Make sure you remember that name, Thomas Wilkes.
I was going to say, because you're going to hear a lot of
him. You're going to hear a lot of him. Medina's offense finally got rolling in the second quarter as senior running back Jimmy Dahl ripped off a 13-yard touchdown run. Get used to that name.
Who?
Because that name,
Jimmy Dahl.
That name is going to come up a lot tonight in this recap as well. Solon's Thomas Wilkes scored his second touchdown of the night on a 44-yard run, and Solon led 16-7 with 10:55. After both teams traded interceptions, one by Solon's cornerback J.T. Caver and the other by Medina defensive end Will Mercurio, Jimmy Daw notched his second touchdown of the night with a 9-yard touchdown pass from Bees quarterback Alex Whitaker. Comets led 16-14 with 7:27 left in the half. Thomas Wilkes scored his third touchdown of the half, rambling 46 yards to put the Comets up 22-14 with 5 minutes and 25 seconds left in the second quarter. After a big kickoff return, Medina started their drive on the Solon 46-yard line, and after driving down to the Solon 14-yard line, that is when they turned to their star running back, Jimmy Daw, who ripped off a 14-yard touchdown run and his third touchdown of the half as well. Medina was able to convert the 2-point conversion, and the score at halftime was tied, 22-22. So here we said at halftime, Jimmy Daw for Medina had 3 touchdowns, and Thomas Wilkes for Solon had 3 touchdowns. Just so everyone knows.
And right before half, I mean, that was impressive for Medina. They scored but held Solon to not score right before half.
Yep. And that kind of carried over a little bit into the second half because Solon started the second half on offense, but the Bees defense forced a 3-and-out and gave their offensive unit the ball on their own 42 on the Bees 42-yard line. The Bees offense, more importantly, running back Jimmy Daw drove right down the field and scored scored on an 8-yard touchdown pass from Whitaker. Medina at this point now led 29-22 with 8:51 left in the third quarter. Medina's defense again came up big in the third quarter, holding Solon to another 3-and-out and another punt on the very next drive. The Bees, with all the momentum, were driving into Solon territory when Comet defensive back Ryan McCurry picked off a Whitaker pass, and Medina's defense was able to respond to that interception and force Solon to punt, this time backing the Bees up to their own 3-yard line. Now, this is where it got a little chippy because at one point the Bees had the ball on the 3-yard line, and from our vantage point where we were sitting on the Solon sideline, it appeared, at least from Solon's end, that they had tackled, I believe, Jimmy Daw in the backfield because they were only handing it to Jimmy Daw at that point. But the referees decided no, he had crossed the plane, and I think they had lost 2 yards. They were on the 3. They were on like the 1. And someone said something to a referee that you're not supposed to, and then I think a coach said something to a referee that you're not supposed to.
It was actually two players.
Two players.
Two players.
From Solon who got hit with unsportsmanlike conduct. So imagine you're on the 1-yard line, and now you basically give Medina 31 yards.
That was the weirdest thing. And you know what? From our vantage point with the video and everything, he did. It didn't look like it, but he did get out of the end zone. The ball went over the line and got to the 1-yard line. Yeah. It didn't look like because most of his body was in the end zone.
Right.
And I know Solon was frustrated. Everybody was booing, going nuts. The players were obviously frustrated. But to get 2 personal fouls, you go from the 1-yard line all the way to the 30. That was a huge turning point.
That's 30 yards. That's now you've completely altered your field position because Solon had them backed up on the goal line, and they probably could have gotten another safety had they just, kept their mouth. And I think that's what the coaching staff of Solon kind of corralled his team because
just got to keep it cool.
Beyond that point, Solon was able to force Medina to punt that ball away again. So it really didn't hurt them as bad as it would, but it was kind of an idea of how chippy it got and how emotional it got. Now, on the corresponding drive after Solon got the ball back, senior Solon running back Thomas Wilkes broke free for a 41-yard touchdown run, and the Comets tied the game 29-29 at the end of the third quarter. Now, the end of the third quarter saw the Bees driving into Comet territory. So, again, if you're keeping score at home, and I know our social media expert Josh was keeping score on Twitter because he kept showing me that the total amount of touchdowns and then the breakdown of the touchdowns. So if you're keeping score at home, at this point, at the end of the third quarter, Wilkes has 4, Daw has 3. That's the way it works. Now, The fourth quarter opened with a 6-yard touchdown run from Daw, his 5th touchdown of the night. I'm sorry, Daw had 4 touchdowns at the end of the third quarter. See, I can't even
it's
keep
pretty
track.
easy to.
I can't even keep track myself, and I was there.
I couldn't keep counting after 3.
So here's where we stand. Medina led 36-29 with 11:21 left in the game. Solon started their first drive of the fourth quarter on their own 36-yard line. They drove the length of the field, utilizing a 20-yard pass reception on 4th and 11 to keep a drive alive. Wilkes scored again on a 1-yard touchdown plunge, and after a successful 2-point conversion, the Comets held a 37-36 lead with 6:57 left. That would be Thomas Wilkes' 5th touchdown of the night.
Unbelievable.
I know. It's killing me. Solon's defense was able to stop the Jimmy Daw Express and the Medina offense, then forced a punt on the next drive. The Comets took over on their own 26-yard line and drove 74 yards, including a spectacular 55-yard pass from Solon QB Joe Bubonics to wide receiver Darrell Sinclair that set up a 2-yard touchdown run by, you guessed it, Thomas Wilkes, his 6th touchdown of the night. Solon led 44-36 with 3 minutes and 23 left in the game. Medina's dreams of a comeback were dashed as a 13-yard interception return for a touchdown by Solon linebacker Matt Brown put the Comets up 51-36. Jeez. With 3:04 left in the game. Jimmy Daw did score his 6th touchdown of the night on a 1-yard touchdown run, but a failed onside kick attempt allowed Solon to seal the victory 51-43. So, at the end of the night, both of the running backs had the exact same number of touchdowns. The difference, as it always does, comes down to a defensive touchdown return for a touchdown.
And you know what? I think Medina, the one thing they couldn't do, Thomas Wilkes had some really long runs.
Yeah.
He got through that front line and was gone. He had some really key runs that weren't short, which I think was a huge difference in the game.
Just to kind of put it in perspective for Thomas Wilkes, who is my Week 10 MVP for the GCC.
Are you serious?
There we go.
He rushed for 251 yards on 22 carries. He had 4 touchdown runs of over 40 yards. So that's why he just had an unbelievable game. Now, on the other end for Medina, Jimmy Daw, as we mentioned, had 6 touchdowns to himself. However, 2 were receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
He had 103 yards receiving, and the other 4 touchdowns were rushing touchdowns, and he had 121 yards on 21 carries. So both very good performances, in a game like that when everything was on the line. Your key players come out and play, and that's exactly what they did. And it was fun for us to be there running. We got our cardio that day, running back and forth down the field. It was a great atmosphere there. Of course, got to give props to both bands.
I was just about to say that. Those are probably 2 of the best bands I've heard all year.
Very upbeat. The student section was good for both ends.
Yeah.
And it was just an all-around great experience there as Solon comes out, does just enough to get that victory.
Well, and I think when you look at, we wondered what kind of team Medina was, and you can tell that Jimmy Daw is that senior leader that whole team absolutely loves to play with. After almost every touchdown, they came up to him. If you listen to the video, one of the kids was like, "I love you, man." After one of the touchdowns, they all just impressive to watch Jimmy Daw and Wilkes run for Solon. Those guys can flat out play, and both teams' defenses weren't the greatest, but you have so many playmakers on each side. Give credit to the O-lines. I mean, Jimmy Daw just makes plays, like you said, receiving and running. It was a lot of fun to watch. The atmosphere was great. The bands were impressive, and playoff atmosphere out there in Medina. And I want to thank Medina for having us.
Fantastic job.
Just a great job for having us.
And one thing I wanted to mention was Thomas Wilkes, when we interviewed him in the video, was very, very, very praiseworthy towards his offensive line. He knew as much as anybody that he got through those holes because they were there by that offensive line. So shout out to the big dogs up front for doing their job.
And real quick, Rob, you mentioned it was a playoff atmosphere, and it was. All of our weeks 1 through 10, our game of the weeks were awesome in their own way, but our coverage does not stop there. Tomorrow, the guys at Sports on Tap, we will be at our first playoff game covering here. Yep. We're going to be at Euclid versus St. Ed's. It's going to be a big game. Division I, Region 1, Lakewood Stadium. Log on to neosportsinsiders.com. We'll have a nice article, a video, and also check out our Facebook page. We'll also post our video on there as well.
At 7-3, and Lakewood St. Edward is number 2 at 7-2. So they have lost 2 games this year, but like you said, neosportsinsiders.com. They do a great job. Active. It's a great site for the high school sports, but also Cleveland sports and many, many others as well. There are a bunch of great guys doing a great job. But again, Euclid at St. Ed will be there. It'll be Rob Troutman, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy. He's been on the sidelines for Brunswick. He's going to see a new team this week.
Yeah, I mean, get to see a team. I do have a little bit of background with Euclid, and I've seen St. Ed's more than I care to. So this will be a great match. You guys on the sidelines and helping out this time.
Well, we look forward to having you. But right now, coming up, we'll go over some of the games to keep an eye out on. And in his head, he's our technician saying, let's go to break here. So that's what we're going to do. All right. Thanks for joining us. What's up, Sean? We'll see you in a few minutes.
Littering in.